kind of crazy. A lot of good kids there. Trey Turner's in. Thomas Hennigan said maybe Appalachian State, maybe NC State for him in the future. Kind of working those two schools. Had a kid tonight, Aaron Wiggins from Grimsley came in. I said, Aaron, where'd you grow up playing? He said, where's the first time you dunked? He said he dunked for the first time in an outdoor court across from his house. He said, I said, where was that? He said, Forest Valley. I said, Forest Valley? That's my court. That's where I played all my games since 1984 at Forest Valley.
When did you first dunk on that court?
The day they broke the rim and bent the rim down. I was dunking last Saturday, but I was working out last Saturday at Parkway Baptist Church up off Benjamin Parkway. They've got this 8-foot goal. I should have asked Trey about this because I worry about bumping my head on the rim. I'm always afraid about how should you dunk? Should you go in sideways? You go straight in, you might bump. On that 8-foot goal, I was getting up a little bit last Saturday. Kind of enjoyed that.
I've never been up in that stratosphere, so.
I told the guy Sunday, I said, yeah, I was dunking yesterday. He said, what? He goes, 8-foot goal? I said, yeah, 8-foot goal, that's right. And you got to use them all.
Take it where you can get it.
That Forest Valley for Aaron Wiggins, that's amazing because I couldn't tell you the days I spent at that crazy court in the summer and the winter. And here this kid lives across the street and he's been going up there forever. What about the big day yesterday? Who won out big as far as our local guys with the commitments? I mean, it wasn't like, I think next year's going to be kind of big because you got Hooker, you got Thomas Hennigan, you got a ton of guys.
Javon
Lee, all those guys next year. Going to be a big year next year for Division I schools. What about yesterday?
DeAndre Overton going to National Runner-Ups Clemson. He announced, I guess, back in January at the Semper Fidelis game out in California where he was going to go. He's going to be with Deshaun Watson
going to be
summer.
With Lawrence, too, out of Raleigh. That kid's going out. When State lost on Overton, lost on Lawrence, I said, come on, Coach. Durham, we got to get one of those guys. What's it going to take? I mean, I guess with Clemson playing so well, people want to go to the big-name winner.
And that's the story of North Carolina high school football over the last 15 or 20 years. Other ACC schools, Florida State, Clemson coming in, teams from the SEC coming in. That's just kind of the way it is in the state. I think because of the Big Four schools as well as ECU here, no one school really has the state locked down, and that opens it up for everyone.
And the bad thing is you can't get your own guys, and you got to pick to the leftovers from Florida and the other states further south.
My alma mater, West Virginia, only produces maybe 3 to 5 Division I FBS level players a year, so they have to recruit Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, Virginia, a lot of other states. And as you say, you're always fighting an uphill battle where if the big state school in those states comes calling late in the process, you may even have a commitment from the kid, and Ohio State drops an offer, and you lose him.
And if you're a team like Charlotte, fairly new on the block, you got to go after the transfers because you're having trouble because you're fairly new. People don't know you. You're not established. You got to get those guys that transfer and maybe sit out a year.
And you have to, if you're at that level, A&T's level, you have to be smart about not investing a lot of time in the kids that you're just not going to get.
You can't walk around that kid you think you're going to get, waste your time with him. Spend your time with him, and then all that time, and you could have had somebody else. This kid's never going to go with you anyway.
Right. That's a big part of college football recruiting. Any college sports recruiting is judging at what level you are and what players you can get at that level.
You would never make it having one guy recruiting. You got to have a bunch of guys spread all over the place and just casting the stones out there trying to find them.
Exactly.
A&T picked up a couple of local guys, didn't they?
Frank McCain from Dudley was a big pickup for them. I'm having to go to my cheat sheet here. I knew you were going to ask me a lot of things tonight. When I roll with Andy, I've got to be ready. Ron Hunt, pretty good receiver out of A&T. Yeah. And I've heard from a couple of people in the last few days that East Forsyth linebacker Krishan Springs may go to A&T as a student initially with the thought of maybe in his sophomore year walking on. That would be a huge pickup for them because Krishan Springs is a good football player, and that would be big for A&T. But those two kids, Ron Hunt and Frank McCain, are going to help them.
And you mentioned about Ron Hunt on your article, I think on your website, Greensboro.com and also HighSchoolExtra.com. But the fact Ron's taller than people realize. He's a tall kid, which you can't teach that. I mean, that's there.
No, and that's the trend. You look at the kids, kids like Denzel Keys at A&T this year. That's the trend with receivers. The two young men that you had on here earlier, Trey Turner and Thomas Hennigan, the shorter of the two is 6'2", 6'3". That's the trend, and teams are looking for bigger receivers. That in a spread offense, you want to try to get them open quick inside, and if they're small, sometimes it's hard to find them, and you also want to be able to throw downfield and have guys who can go up and high point the ball and have the athletic ability and the ball skills that a Trey Turner does from basketball, that a Thomas Hennigan does from basketball, that a Ron Hunt does from basketball. And Frank McCain as a defensive back.
And the thing about Thomas, you can feel, you watch Thomas play basketball, ripping the ball away, going up to, you can see when he catches a pass, his energy and his strength, he can break away from those defenders and get down the field and be gone.
He and Trey both have great hands. You watch them play football and as receivers, and they both do something, and the good receivers do it. DeAndre Overton's another great example of it. They don't let the ball get into their body. They catch it with their hands. They almost seem to, no matter how hard it's thrown or where it is, they almost seem to snatch it out of the air. And that's what colleges and NFL teams have to teach some kids. They've got that already. They've got those ball skills, and teams love that.
What about Simeon Gatlin? I mean, what happened with Simeon? We had some questions by one person or two today. Not everybody said, have you heard the news? But I didn't get any news. What about Simeon? What happened?
He's still looking at options. The service academies, Army and Navy have been options. At this stage, I haven't spoken to him directly, but often what happens at this stage is they'll ask you to go to their prep school. Naval Academy Prep School this past season had Nazir Cromartie and Trey Meadows playing for them, who are going to be in Annapolis this year in the fall. So that's certainly an opportunity or a route he could take. He's got the grades, he's got the leadership in the background to go that route. I'm not sure what's going to happen there. I think that's one of the reasons that Dudley held off on having a signing ceremony. Another young man there, Isaiah Little.
Exactly. I heard he's going to Johnson C. Smith. I heard it. That's what I heard.
I haven't heard.
I heard that. I heard about him. I said, I am an NFL recruiter. I imagine I said, I'm going to get out of Johnson C. Smith. Let's get this guy locked in right now. I mean, he's at Johnson C. Smith, kind of being hidden away from the big schools. I mean, Little is still, to me, he could have been All-American if he'd been promoted right as soon as because he was so huge, such a big guy. But I don't know.
You never know. You never know what all the circumstances are. With any particular student athlete. But I was talking to Dennis White earlier before I went on with you. Sometimes those smaller schools are a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with not going to necessarily an FBS school. Look at the Super Bowl rosters. Look at how many players were FCS Division II players.
Yeah, look at Josh Norman out of Coastal Carolina. Yeah.
Josh Norman and Mike Tolbert, both out of Coastal.
Yeah,
I mean,
Mike Tolbert, huge.
Dennis was saying earlier, and it's true, if you've got the talent, they will find you. They're in the business of winning games, NFL, NBA, whoever it is. If they think you can help them win games, they're going to find you.
And we talk about the guys earlier. We talk about next year, you got Thomas Hennigan, you got Hendon Hooker, plus Will Jones, I guess, next year.
Javon Leake.
All those guys.
Yeah.
A load next year, Division I prospects.
At the skill position, certainly.
The skill position, that's what kind of lights that fire, gets people talking.
Yep.
It's going to be an interesting run to see what those guys end up at before it's all said and done. We talked to Trey earlier. Trey Turner's got all those crazy offers already just as a sophomore.
And they're going to keep coming. I mean, he's got that kind of ability, that kind of talent. Another name we didn't mention who was hurt for much of this past season, and when he wasn't hurt, just wasn't that involved. Breland Faison Walden. Look at some of the offers he's got at Grimsley.
Exactly,
and that's a great place. Darryl Brown, the new Grimsley coach, that's a great place to start, is Breland Faison Walden. What are we going to do with him? I'm thinking if I'm Darryl Brown. How are we going to get the ball in his hands? Where do we utilize him best? But, another kid who is getting some great offers already.
Yeah, you got to put a diary together with that kid. Every day, watch him every day. Make sure you keep an eye on him. Make sure he stays healthy. Make sure every day he's thinking football. Make sure every day he's doing something to get better, because you want that guy to get all the maximize his talents next year completely.
Exactly. Yes.
How about this Greensboro Day School Wesleyan game back on Tuesday? 54-47. If Greensboro Day had their druthers, they'd say, give me 50 and I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's a misnomer that people think Greensboro Day wants to play slow. They don't want to play slow. If they get the ball, if they get a steal, they get a rebound, they push it up the floor, they want to score in transition. In fact, they're a very good transition team, but they play man-to-man defense. They don't press much. I think that's why people get that misnomer about them. But their games tend to be low scoring, because every time you've got the ball, unless you score on them in transition, they're going to make you work 30, 40 seconds if you want a good shot. If you want to shoot earlier and take a bad shot, they'll let you take it. But
possession.
Yeah, that's because of their defense, and that's the way those kids come in there, and knowing that they're committed to playing defense, That's Freddie Johnson's way. His top assistant, Jeff Smith, really works them on defense. They scout teams well, and they don't mind playing games
Now,
that are
how
low
did
scoring.
High Point Christian win that game at Greensboro Day last Friday night? How did they win that game?
That was a game that could have gone either way. Obviously, it was an overtime game. The High Point Christian Greensboro Day scenario this year is an awful lot like the Wesleyan Greensboro Day scenario last year. Last year, Greensboro Day goes to Wesleyan, huge game, wins on the road, comes home, loses in 4 overtimes, and then they meet again in the state championship game, which Greensboro Day wins. This year, Harry Giles isn't at Wesleyan. He's not playing basketball, unfortunately, because of another knee injury, but he'll be back at Duke next year. This year, High Point Christian adds Bam Adebayo, who's headed to Kentucky, one of arguably the best big man in college basketball high school basketball playing this year. And the first game that they play, Greensboro Day beats them in what's High Point Christian's home game at Guilford College. You know what a great game that was. A 1-point game. Then they go to Greensboro Day. It's a 2-point overtime game. They're going to meet again in Raleigh at Ravenscroft School in the NCIS.
So they're playing in Raleigh this year.
Ravenscroft is where the 3A is this year.
It's coming pretty quick, too, isn't it? About the third week of February?
The 20th is their state championship game. They are wrapping up their regular season tomorrow night. And then Tuesday. For Greensboro Day, the last 2 games, both on the road. They've got to go to Davidson Day, and then they finish it for Scythe Country Day. And High Point Christian on Tuesday.
There's your meal, by the way.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
High Point Christian on Tuesday is playing Wesleyan. And High Point Christian and Greensboro Day are both tied right now with 1 loss each to each other at the top of their conference standings. Both of them are going to be, whichever one comes out on top in that whole scenario is going to be probably the number 2 seed
right?
behind Charlotte Providence Day, which is a really strong team. Beat the 2 of those schools back to back at the end of November, beginning of December, 1 by 5, 1 by 10.
And the crazy thing was those weren't fluke wins because Providence Day has kept it up all year for the most part. They kept it up.
That's a strong team. 3 losses all year, ranked nationally. They're good. So basically,
that's the same team Greensboro Day faced in the title or in the semifinals last year, right? Played them in the semifinals last year.
Yep, correct. Good team. Grant Williams, power forward, is going to Tennessee, where he'll be joining Jalen Johnson and Quay Parker, who are at Wesleyan this year, all in that same recruiting class. That's a very good Charlotte Providence Day team. And one thing that may be a little bit of an edge for them is that if Greensboro Day and High Point Christian both close out with 2 more wins, they're going to play each other, or would play each other in a 2-3 semifinal. So that might wear one of those down. But on the other hand, the number 4 seed, if they started it right now, would be Ravenscroft.
So
you'd have to play them. You'd have to play them on their home floor.
Wow.
So
and Ravenscroft beat Wesleyan down there too, didn't they? Yeah, interesting.
That's a good team. They gave High Point Christian a very good game. They gave Greensboro Day a good game. Kevin Billerman, former Duke player, is the coach there.
Exactly. Been there a long time.
Yeah, that's a great program too, and that's going to be a really fun Final Four for them, the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th at Ravenscroft. Great basketball.
It's been a long time. It seems like since it's been in Greensboro back in the day. I think the last one was in Greensboro, and Freddie beat Steph Curry and those guys over this place possibly.
Part of it now is gym size.
Yeah, exactly.
Ravenscroft has a good sized gym. Last year it was at the Asheville school, and I thought, wow, all the way up there, beautiful facility, good sized gym. I mean, it could handle the crowds that they were going to get for those games. High Point Christian, small gym. Wesleyan, small gym. Greensboro Day, relatively small. They'd almost have to get a neutral site facility like a Fleming gym or maybe Guilford College, right? If they were going to do it. And Guilford College is always worried about, would it possibly conflict with a Division III tournament or something? So anyway.
A lot of good points. What about the big W at Grimsley game and also Page at Smith? Big games for those guys tomorrow night.
Metro 4A boys basketball this year is pretty wild. All the 4 teams that you mentioned are all still in the hunt. And you know what? When they get to the end of the regular season, they basically, other than seeding, hit the reset button because you got the conference tournament.
Exactly.
And I believe it's at Southeast Guilford this year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's
I know the girls is.
Yeah.
So if it's in Southeast Guilford, nobody's really, out of those 4 teams, is going to have a home court advantage.
No way.
So
way out in the county, too.
Yeah, you'll see. But, to me, Dudley, I thought, was the best team in the conference, and I thought they were going to roll, and then they turn around and they lose at home to Page, and they lose at Smith, and everything's wide open now.
And the big Northwest Guilford and Southwest Guilford game at Southwest next Tuesday is looking big too.
Boys and girls. An unbeaten Southwest boys team playing a very, very good Northwest boys team. An unbeaten Northwest girls team playing a pretty darn good Southwest girls team when LaShonda Monk is healthy. Exactly. They're a different team. You look at their losses this year.
That was a tight game when they played Southwest, Northwest girls at Northwest when Monk came back for that game. It was a very tight game early.
Northwest pulled away over time. But they're going to Southwest. Northwest with another big game Wednesday.
Certainly, yeah. East Davidson women.
Two of I believe there's either 4 or 5 public schools as of now in the state girls basketball still unbeaten, and those are 2 of them.
It's amazing. That's among all 4 classifications, by the way.
There's a couple of Morganton Freedom, and I can't remember the other school in 3A. East Davidson's 2A, Northwest in 4A.
I just hope Northwest takes care of all the business against Glenn tomorrow, Southwest on Tuesday to keep that perfect matchup going. And the key right now, late in the season, don't get anybody hurt late in the year. Keep everybody healthy.
Definitely.
Because Savannah Neese has had a bad ankle for a while. I think she's missed some games. Hopefully she's back full strength for those games too.
Yeah, depth is one of the things that Northwest has going for them. A lot of good, solid players that they can bring off the bench and work in. And when you start having injuries, that can affect the depth.
How about you look at those games? You also look at some other games too. Think about that Southwest Guilford boys team. They need to beat Northwest to keep that record going. That's going to be a major boys game there too when they get together Tuesday night. Because Northwest men, to them, that's like they're almost in some ways their season. Somebody's got to beat Southwest. If you're Northwest, you got the best chance right now.
Yeah, that's clearly the one challenge remaining for Southwest before the postseason. That conference is those 2 teams and other folks. No knock against any of those teams,
sure.
But those 2 are clearly the class of that conference.
Right. I mean, Ragsdale boys just kind of quietly drifted away and no longer a factor. East Forsyth Glen and High Point Central's guys are not bad, but they're not a factor either.
They were much improved this year, but they're not
Durham
in that
team. I
class.
don't know where that. I heard a lot about the Northern Durham and the High Point Central back maybe early January, but I don't know what else came out about after that. But overall, it's like you say, it's Northwest Guilford men, Southwest Guilford men. Boy, Southwest is just so deep. After the Langleys, you got Mitchell, you got Orlando Smith, then you got those kids like Cooper Cunningham off the bench, and a lot of talent over there.
Yeah, Guy Shavers has had that program going for a while now, and with two Langley freshmen and another one coming in a few years.
They got another one too.
Oh yeah,
they know about the next one. Wow.
That's that's a great foundation to start from, and he's just a good, solid coach. And
Kiefer Langley should have started his own school back in the day. Could have had his own academy with all those Langley kids.
Yep.
What about the Southeast Guilford girls? They're making a bit of a run right now, kind of a re-push for them in the Metro.
Yeah, and another conference that it's not a 4-way, but it's a 3-way battle. Page has had its moments.
Look at those girls in the Metro. It's almost like nobody wants it right now. The way it keeps kind of spinning around with the girls.
I think a lot of it there is that they are pretty evenly matched. Southeast, Page, and Dudley. Different styles for each team. Dudley always wants to press you full court, always wants to turn you over, and if they can't turn you over, then they're not as effective in a half court. Page, Bailey Cargo is a great place to start. Roxanne Fenning at the point is not a big scorer.
Roxanne Fleming is just so energized. She just cut through those defenses and run around. It's like a kid in a middle school playing ball.
The difference in their season last year when they were good was when she was healthy. When she was out, had that boot on her foot.
Makes a big difference.
Struggled.
I like to watch Emily Casper work around that point, good senior shooter, but I think she's more comfortable shooting the ball outside than running the offense. And Bailey Cargo, she's got the best follow field among boys and girls at Austin in the entire state. I just love watching her shot because she follows through with that shot every time.
She's so smooth, and
she can hit.
And having Roxanne Fenning there allows her to be the 2 guard, handle it occasionally, and and attack off the dribble. But last year, when Page girls were really struggling, it was when Bailey Cargo had to handle and be the scorer.
And she's got a nice reverse layup too. Plus Monk has a nice reverse. Some of the shots you don't normally see from some of the girls.
Yeah,
they do
some
well.
very talented players.
What about just 1 week to go, like you say with these teams? After tomorrow night, 1 week to go. It's coming out quick. What about, we haven't mentioned these girls yet, Northern Guilford girls still hopeful. They blew out Northeast last week, but what about Northern Guilford's girls? A chance to make some more noise. Eastern IMS girls have lost. Their boys have lost, so they're possible teams that Northern Guilford's girls can knock off Eastern. Rockingham County's still tough. You think the Northern girls got a chance to make a run?
I think they might still be a year away. Going into the season, I thought that they might take a big step in 3A this year. I didn't calculate just how much losing Sidney Wilson, their senior point guard last year, who was all area for us, would mean to that team. They basically have the very impressive sophomore center, Alyssa Kinane, at 6'5", already with major college offers, Georgia, NC State, and some others already. Talking about Trey Turner and some other people getting early offers.
Yeah.
They have her, and they basically have 4 shooters that they space around the floor around her, but they don't have that point guard this year. They're still trying to develop some of their younger people in the backcourt to be that ball handler, and when they get pressed, when they get harassed in the half court, that's where they get in a little bit of trouble. When they can get it into Kinane, when she can score or kick it out to their shooters, they're a very dangerous team. But right now, Rockingham County and Eastern Alamance tied at the top with 2 losses each in that conference. Northern is going to have a tough
I tell
time
you what,
affecting
Eastern
that.
Alamance did Rockingham County a favor too, because one time Eastern Alamance girls, they were leaving everybody else behind. Even the boys didn't have a loss. They got beat by Cummins, I think, last Saturday, like 69-61. But again, Eastern Alamance kind of come back to the pack a little bit now.
Yeah. On the girls' side, on the boys' side, they've won that conference
Left it,
regular
ran
season.
away.
It's pretty much over there. So that's a great athletics program. You mentioned that on your site recently.
Exactly, yeah.
The football program has been so strong. They have a very good soccer program. Boys and girls basketball, they've really
See, Mebane
developed
has
well.
become a nice community to kind of bring those athletes in.
It's if you have families where one spouse works in the Triangle and one in the Triad, it's a great location, or one in the Triangle and one in Burlington, and it's become a huge bedroom community. A lot of people moving in there, and it's a very good athletic program right now.
Let's hit the cold facts. Don't forget Shane's Rib Shack got Super Bowl 50. Be sure to get 50 wings at Shane's for Super Bowl 50. Plus, who wins the Metro Girls? Can you give us a favorite that's going to win this?
Southeast Guilford.
Southeast, good call. What about the Metro Boys?
I still think Dudley gets the ship righted and has it going when it matters.
That's going to make it a fun 3 games down the stretch.
Definitely.
What about Southwest Guilford Boys?
They
win it?
I think they're going to go into the NCHSA tournament unbeaten.
Unbeaten. That's a good call. What about the Northwest Guilford girls? Same story?
Yes.
Going unbeaten?
Yes.
All right. Both those teams, other than them, anybody else that lasts more than a few rounds in the playoffs, you see?
Oh, boy.
Maybe the Northwest Guilford boys, possibly more in a couple
Northwest
rounds?
Guilford boys, a lot of what happens in the postseason depends on matchups, depends on who you draw. Very good teams can sometimes run up against somebody that either slows the ball down on them, slows the clock down, plays a slower game. Page last year, the boys team en route to the state quarterfinals, had a multiple overtime game.
How about that North Mecklenburg team? And that team is still, they got 2 guys on that North Mecklenburg team that made that North Carolina squad to play us out. We can't release that yet, right? We can talk about it, though.
Right.
To play for the North Carolina team against South. 2 guys on that roster. So North Mech is still tough.
And in the postseason, you're running into so many well-coached teams that when they can focus on just one opponent, preparing for that one opponent, you don't know what you're going to get, and you have to be sharp. Well, one mistake, one bad night, one bad shooting night in the postseason, and you're done.
In a team like Mount Tabor, which came, I think, to Page last year, is that
Another one
team.
that gave them fits last year. And they've got a lot of people back. I saw them playing the MLK Day Classic, and that's a good basketball team.
Andrews girls, think they got a chance to make a 2A run? I don't think they've lost in the conference yet, but that's a weak conference. So.
Yeah, their conference record can be a little bit misleading, the same way that Reedsville in football has it a little bit easier than the Andrews boys do. I don't know. There's certainly some talent there, but when you look at some of their losses this year, some of them are inexplicable. You don't know. I mean, is it possible they get hot? Yeah, but they haven't really shown the consistency to make a run.
How about the Carolina Panthers? They win the Super Bowl, right?
Yes.
And who's the MVP other than Cam Newton?
I am going to say Greg Olson.
Greg Olson, he'd be a good one. If he makes at least 1 touchdown catch and has several receptions, he could well be that MVP. And he would be very good on the podium speaking afterwards, too.
He's a guy who they go to in the red zone, and that leads to touchdowns, and that's what people remember.
What about the next president of the United States? It's a great time right now. All the polls are out right now, the caucuses and the primaries coming up. New Hampshire's next, and the field is being whittled down now, maybe 3 favorites on the Republican side. Oh, it's always been pretty much 2 on the Democratic side.
It's very interesting, but I am not an editorial page writer for the News and Record. I do not talk politics publicly.
If you were going to vote, could you tell us who you would vote for? Are you Republican or Democrat? Can you tell us that?
I am not registered as either. I'm registered as an independent.
Okay.
I think on some issues I'm conservative, on some I'm pretty liberal. I will say this, if you want me to talk politics, I'll say that the biggest problem in this country right now is people on both sides, right and left, just yelling at each other and not listening to each other and not doing what's right for the country. I think that's the biggest issue, and I think that's one of the things that makes it hard for me to choose a candidate a lot of times is that every candidate thinks that they have to be all one thing or all another. And I'm like most people. I want to go to the buffet. I want to pick a few things here and a few things there. And that's the way I am with political
too much
issues and
yelling and
policies.
screaming, trying to get their points across.
And too much polarization.
You brought up a word I brought the shades that word. I said, that's Cam Newton. Cam Newton is a polarizing character. I was thinking about that in shades, not ionization, not any other thing, but polarizing factor.
I like what Cam does on the football field, and I like the fact that he has fun. I don't think I've seen him there's a lot of taunting that goes on in high school sports, college sports, pro sports. Very little of what I see from Cam Newton would I classify as taunting. He's a celebratory football player.
Not trying to hurt anybody, just trying to have some
fun. Is the way I would describe him. And people often, because of all the money involved in pro football and all the TV coverage and everything else, people forget it's a game. And Cam Newton has fun playing a game, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And I think anybody, if he's taunting somebody, that I would have a problem with. But most of it, he's just celebrating, having a good time out there, and that's the way football's supposed to be.
Where will you be Friday night?
I will probably be at Northwest. I'm either going to be at Northwest for the doubleheader with Glenn or Grimsley for the doubleheader with Dudley. I'm still awaiting word from my superior officer on that one.
Gotcha. Top 5 girls in Guilford County. Any idea on the top 5 girls right
Players
now?
or teams?
Players.
I think you've got to put Bailey Cargo in there. I think you've got to put Alyssa Kinane in there. I think you have to put Haley Barber in there for sure. If I were, the last 2 spots would probably be LaShonda Monk, and then I'm probably looking at either Jaslyn Taylor from Andrews or Kiara Harrison from Dudley, depending on the night.
That was my 5 with Barber, Cargo, Harrison, Monk, and Kinane. One of my sleepers, this is a girl I'm going to buy. I'm buying Rebecca Little at Grimsley. Rebecca Little, she doesn't realize that she is one of the futures in basketball in this state. She had like 23 against Page, but she's been more consistent later in the season. Plus, she's about 6'2", it looks like. I can't tell, but she's tall, and she hits a 3-point shot. And plus, when she makes a bucket, she realizes, I need to shoot again. Get me the ball back.
Supporting cast is an
exactly.
issue. If you don't have a point guard to get you the ball and handle another team's pressure defense.
The problem is she is the point guard. She's
right.
a 2 guard.
She's in the position that Bailey Cargo had to be in last year when Roxanne Fenning was hurt. And what people don't realize sometimes is even if she doesn't turn the ball over, when you get later in the game, the first thing that goes is your legs, and then your shot goes.
Absolutely.
And that's a factor with her. Younger players, Kayla King at Northwest Guilford is going to be a very, very, very good basketball player.
Another good one, too, is Symphony Jackson at Smith. Little Jackson girl's a freshman.
Yes.
She'll be good when she finally gets in the groove of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's always some good young talent coming up. But
I'll tell you another good one, too, is Emma Hurd. I like Emma over at Page. Emma's got a future, but just got to get a little more consistent. She's a sophomore now, heading toward a junior.
You want to talk about somebody who ultimately will probably be playing Division I ball. Elizabeth Kitley at Northwest Guilford, a freshman.
Yeah,
Ralph Kitley, former Wake player's daughter. He's the principal there. She's not quite as far along or as polished as Alyssa Kinane was as a freshman last year, but Elizabeth Kitley is still a freshman. She's 6'4". She's probably going to get a little taller, and she's got good fundamentals.
Been able to bring her along slowly, too, gradually.
And because, as you say, of the program that Northwest has, the depth that they have, the talent they have, they can work her in gradually. Next year, when Morgan Pointer's gone, she's going to be stepping into that role.
It's going to be a good front line, too, with Bria Gibbs and Kitley. Those are 2 tall girls. That's some imposing forces.
And they lose Haley Barber, but they'll have Kayla King back, who's only a freshman this year, and that having her has allowed Barber to go to the 2 sometimes, the
And
same
get
way
rebounds.
Cargo.
She drops to the back line, rebounds well, does so many things well.
Just a very smart fundamental player.
Top 5 guys in Guilford County.
Oh boy, you're talking private or public?
Public.
Public.
Thought it'd go public be easier to break it down.
Yeah. Public schools. Trey Turner,
Got him
I
on
would put in there. Hendon Hooker for sure.
Yep.
You've got Cayman Mitchell. You got some Langleys. Which Langley do you like? Give me just Langley, and I'll take all 3 to put in there. DeAndre Overton at Page when he's on is fun to watch. Josh Hopkins for Dudley, another player. When he's on, he's a heck of a player. You go up to Northern Guilford, 2 players I like watching up there. Andy Pack, when he hits one from 3-point range, he's going to hit 3 or 4. He can attack the basket a little bit. He disappears a little bit at times when his shot doesn't fall. I think he kind of fades into the background a little bit, but extremely talented. And the big kid up there,
Old school Jack Emmerich.
To me, he's the Tyler Hansborough of Guilford County boys basketball. He's a guy you love to have him on your team. You hate to play against him because if you've got him for 32 minutes, you're going to be
spun his armpits.
You're going to be bruised when the game is over. Not because he's dirty, but because he's in the best sense of the word, he's a banger.
He's a body.
He knows how to lean into you and get open inside, how to bang you on the boards.
You can't make the shots that he makes without knowing what you're doing. You just can't throw those shots up.
He's very frustrating to play against, and to me, that tells me someone is a good player when opponents are getting frustrated playing against him.
They want off the court. Let me out of here. And I put 2 other guys, and I put Wiggins and also put Pratt among those guys.
Pratt's a kid I should have mentioned. And it's funny because last year, Aaron Simpson was kind of playing the role that Raymond Pratt does, and Pratt kind of played second fiddle to him. Aaron's at a junior college out in Illinois right now, and I think we'll end up at least a mid-major at some point if he takes care of business out there. Raymond Pratt's being looked at by A&T and some other folks around town. Just an electric scorer when he gets going. And like Aaron Simpson last year, not necessarily a phenomenal shooter, not necessarily a phenomenal driver, but does everything well, and he'll do whatever he has to do to score for that Smith team, whether it's shooting, driving.
Definitely a scorer.
He's a scorer.
And I like that Wiggins kid at Grimsley, just a smooth outside shot, and the kid has come a long way.
Yep.
He's got to have a big game against Dudley. That's going to be tomorrow night. The job is there. He's got to go to work.
I was at the first meeting, and Dudley pretty much controlled that one, particularly in the second half, with their pressure defense. If their pressure takes a toll on Grimsley again tomorrow night, it's going to be tough, but home court I think will mean a lot. Once the Dudley crowd got into it with the pressure last time, it really fueled them. They're going to be at Grimsley. We'll see what kind of crowd Grimsley gets.
Yep. Busy week coming up. You got that game tomorrow night. You got the Page Smith game tomorrow night. You got the Southwest Northwest game on Tuesday. East Davidson at Northwest Women next Wednesday. I think next Friday you got Smith over at Grimsley. So a lot going on. Next week is going to be a busy week.
It's that time of year, and then not far away for the Public Schools Conference tournaments. It's going to be wild.
You got to get him in this year. No
I hope
last
so.
year.
That still blows my mind. No conference tournaments. It was just weird.
Joe, you did a great job.
Always a pleasure,
With Smoke
Andy.
Time. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work and keep doing a good job on Twitter too. I like Joe's Twitter because he gives the inside news about what's going on, and you can click on a lot of those and it'll take you directly to sites. Doing a great